Reading has become useless. Today, people no longer want to read, they no longer want to look for information because they go straight to asking artificial intelligence. That's completely false. No, AI, yes, there are many who will use it perhaps as a substitute for reading. No, in reality, you can read faster, read better, and learn in a much deeper and more effective way thanks to artificial intelligence. And I'm not against AI, saying, like many boomers do, that it's something that will make us dumber and less intelligent, because I see it as an extension of intelligence and a way to catalyze our own skills and move to another level. Because today, AI allows us to synthesize a huge amount of information in a world where our biggest problem is information overload. That's why today I'm going to show you how to read faster, better, and more efficiently, and also how to learn faster thanks to artificial intelligence. Welcome, this is Johanny Yanting. Today we're going to talk about topics that are closest to my heart, topics I've been discussing for so many years now, because ever since I became an entrepreneur, I've been sharing and documenting my journey, my evolution since 2008 on a blog and since 2012 on YouTube. And today we're going to talk about how to learn with artificial intelligence. And it's funny to see because since I talk about books and became known thanks to book recommendations, I noticed that nowadays videos about books are getting fewer and fewer views. And honestly, I don't know why. Maybe people think that nowadays people no longer want to read, they no longer want to learn. But in reality, that's not really the case, because there are also a lot of people who tell me the books you recommended to me or the ones you suggested really helped me. On the other hand, it's true that now the reflex is no longer to go ask Google or go read a certain book, it's to ask ChatGPT, for example. No, actually, the real problem is that most people, even before AI, I'm telling you, don't know how to optimize their reading. They don't know why they're reading. They don't know how to read effectively. They don't know how to memorize or how to get the most out of books. And that too is a real problem. First, you have to understand one thing. AI does give you answers, sure, but only things that are already known, things it knows because it was fed with them. Moreover, AI won't naturally spark deep reflections. It won't tell stories that are grounded in real reality. And I insist on this idea of real reality, in the sense that when someone has put their soul, their vision, their perspectives into a book, that's something AI can't do. Because for me, reading and books are created by a consciousness with a story, with something to share. Except for books written by AI, but that's another matter. But the book itself can bring you new perspectives, genuine reflection, real depth, and also another way of seeing the world. A book can also tell you a story that comes from a place of sensitivity. A book will also give you an experience from someone who has lived through something and is sharing their vision and experience with you. And a book, beyond just what you can learn from it, is also an opportunity to be in the present moment, to focus, to be engaged in a single action, which is reading. Because when we're using AI, what happens? Very often, while we're on it, at the same time, we'll open a video on YouTube, go on social media, copy and paste what we've generated. We're not focused, we're not in the moment. We're in something that's instantaneous, but we're not truly grounded in the present moment. And that's something that's extremely important in a world where we're saturated with information, to be able to regain this ability to concentrate, to think, and to really push our thinking, that famous reflection. Since many people don't know how to read effectively, they also don't know how to use artificial intelligence effectively, and the two can be combined. There are three phases in learning. There's pure consumption. That's when we absorb ideas, we see what's been said, we acquire a new skill or a new way of thinking, etc. We consume. We're pretty passive when we consume, but that's the first phase. The second phase is digestion. We start making connections, we begin to push our thinking further, we might start considering how to put things into practice, and we also start to undergo a deeper and deeper transformation. And then there's the final stage, which is application, the actual implementation, where we really get into how we use it, how we practice it. Unfortunately, many people, and that's why they struggle to learn and read effectively, stay stuck in the first phase. They just stay at that point of, okay, I know. Yes, but knowing is one thing, but do you understand? Do you apply it and do you master it? Because that's the real level, it's mastery. So between knowing, doing, practicing, and mastering, there are different levels of involvement. That's why my approach, specifically for using AI, is really about consumption. Having a way of consuming where the ideas we get, the things we encounter in reading and learning, we actually capture them. So taking notes, making a summary, whether it's on a Kindle where you can highlight or a document you've seen, an interesting article, saving it, turning it into a PDF or something that stood out to you, something you've seen, heard, learned, notes you've taken. And if you manage to take good notes, by the way, I made a great video that did really well. It's been up for a while and still helps a lot of people today on how to take good notes. Go check it out. I'll put the link in the description. But that's what note taking is all about. The notes you have today are part of this consumption phase, and you'll need to process those notes. Before, what used to happen? We would go back and reread our notes, look at them, and we could use tools, which I used to recommend, that would regularly send us our notes for little refreshers, but very often our notes just get stored away and we don't do anything with them. And that's where AI becomes interesting, because now you can actually process those notes. Because yes, what I recommend when it comes to note taking is to write things down and then alongside that, to put them into practice fairly quickly and immediately. But now with your notes, what you can do is say, okay, I have all my notes here. I have documentation. I have my second brain. I teach you how to have a second brain in the FAST method, which is linked below if you're interested. And actually, what we're going to do is feed our AI. It could be our own agent. It could be an AI that we train for ourselves, or we're going to feed it with knowledge so that it can then process it. And here, the AI will bring another form of digestion, another way of putting things into practice. And that's where it can become incredibly powerful. For example, you might have fields where you read a lot, take notes, train yourself, learn, and in each of these fields have agents or assistants that contain the entire knowledge base. And what's great is that you'll be able to retrieve this knowledge base. You acquired it, you took the notes, you did the work, it's in your brain, but the brain doesn't store everything. But what's great with AI is that it can actually remember it for you. You can recall it either by asking it to find information, or, for example, if you're writing a book and doing research, use AI to store the information and say, give me the study on this person, or remind me about that thing on this topic. Because sometimes we don't really remember where we put the file. AI is extremely useful when you need to put into practice what you've learned. What you can do is simply ask the AI to give you concrete applications in a project, in a specific field, or in your life. And if you've maybe done a bit of prompting work or had a discussion about your situation or context, well, the AI can, for example, if you've read a book on a certain topic, tell you how to apply the lessons from the book to your own case. Let's say you don't know, suppose you've read a really interesting book about how to manage anxiety. And maybe you've even read several books or some documentation, and now there are tons of tips and practical advice. Ask the AI to pick out the best tips, give you a quick refresher with a summary, and also tell you what kind of routine you can set up to work on that. And similarly, I did some work on this. I developed an assistant for my clients who have ADHD, and we did the same thing. We fed it a lot of documentation and resources, and it can provide exercises, productivity approaches, or methods that have been saved in the knowledge base, and that's incredibly powerful. The thing is, today we're really in an era of augmented intelligence. It's not just about waiting for AI to give you things and saying, okay, that's a kind of intellectual laziness. It's about pushing your thinking further and asking AI either to bring you new information, to cross-reference it, to actually assemble it, to synthesize it when there's a lot of overlap, to provide you with applications, and even you can generate quizzes as well. Why not make little quizzes when you've learned something or about a book to help you remember, and tell the AI, well, make me a little quiz on the notes from this book, for example, for those who are students, to practice and all that. So, as you can see, the possibilities are endless. And what I do, my process today with AI and reading, is that I always have this note-taking approach, which is centralized in documents. And these note-taking documents, I often integrate and connect them to the AI so it can feed a database that I have access to. So I've put into practice, and often I'll ask it for practical applications, and I've even set up a little tool that sends me thematic excerpts based on the topics I request. For example, I'll tell it, this week, send me excerpts, summaries, information about copywriting, or send me information on a certain topic. And so that week, for a whole week, every day, my little personal newsletter will be reminders, notes I've taken on those topics. And I find that super powerful because actually I used to do it with other tools and all, but now I can personalize it 100% and it's based on what I've learned, what I've consumed myself. So that's the advice I can give you. Today, instead of thinking about a substitute, think about the learning process and see how AI can improve and optimize each step, whether it's finding books, resources, documentation, digesting it, processing it, cross-referencing it, and then assisting you in putting it into practice. And if you do that, I think you can get really great results and learn much faster thanks to AI and have an enhanced reading experience, a kind of reading that's much more, let's say, in-depth and conscious. And of course, when you're reading slightly more complex books, don't hesitate to ask AI to explain certain turns of phrase, because sometimes when you come across old French or texts that are a bit more difficult to understand today, it can be interesting to ask it for the author's perspective and see how it can assist you directly as you read. And I think that if you put this into practice, you can get really, really good results and you can start accelerating your learning speed. And if this is really a topic that interests you and you want to develop your learning strategy, your learning system, and your second brain, you can check out the FAST method in the description. I'll show you how to do it, and it will help you implement all of this, both in the process and in applying it with AI. So tell me which book you're going to use to apply and test things with AI. I'm really interested. Let me know in the comments. And go check out other resources. You have my book recommendations, other videos on how to learn and take notes, and I'm also sharing some extra resources to help you go further on this topic. Check below, subscribe, and I'll see you very soon.